All right. Well, welcome everybody to Reactor. Those that don't know who I am Tim Ryan. I'm the director of Reactor. James Doe, the associate director. Over on a larger umbrella, the executive director of Innovate Hampton Roads. We're all about doing these types of things because this is about building an ecosystem. And it's with that building an ecosystem, it's bringing people together. Everyone is invited. Collisions happen. We meet one another. We learn from one another. We grow from one another. And this is a direct result of exactly that. I met Charlie. I don't know.
Tell them the story. Tell them the story. Come on.
I met Charlie. Yeah. Do you want me to go the full story?
You should tell the
Do we
full
have time?
story.
I don't know how long your deck is. So I met Charlie. It was just like we were at assembly in downtown Norfolk. Linda Peck introduced me to this guy. I thought he was just like a transient, just passing by. And I was like, hey, nice to meet you. I meet a lot of folks. And then I went about my business. Charlie went about his business. Next thing I know, Charlie has a position at 757 Collab. And fast forward a little bit later, Charlie is implementing some AI type of procedures for Collab. And then a little bit later, I hear on the down low that Charlie has then started a company with Chris Davidson. And I was like, wow, well, that is really interesting. And here I thought that Charlie was just a guy that was just here for a little bit, but he is putting some roots down. So if you look, one of the things that Innovate Hampton Roads does is we cover all of the news stories and the events that are taking place. So if you look in the newsletter that was released Friday, right?
Today.
Was it today, the news story?
Yeah.
I thought today was events.
The news story went out this morning.
The news story went out this morning, and then it'll be in the newsletter on Friday. So part of that, that's what I was getting tripped up. So if you look at innovate757.org, we have that news story introducing Charlie, Chris, in the business that they are doing. It's all centered around AI. In doing so, we're going to have Charlie come and talk to you all about AI so that, I don't know, are they going to walk away as an expert?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know that I am yet. So
That's one thing that I've learned. Anyone that says they're an expert in AI is a liar.
yeah, well, it changes every single day. So
It is one of the things you have to understand is it grows at an exponential pace. So today it's going to be, or tomorrow's going to be exponentially better than today, and today is exponentially better than yesterday. So one thing that you can count on, the fact is the worst experience with AI that you're ever going to experience is today, and tomorrow is going to be much, much better. So with that, I want to turn this over to Charlie O'Brien so he can teach us about Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is an agent.
that's right. That's right.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? I'm Charlie. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that introduction. Yeah, so I mean, my background, I'm just going to kind of go through that really quick before I talk about what an agent is. There's me at 757 Build Weekend, where I built like an AI agent for helping with grants, writing them, finding them, etc. I grew up in New York City. I was in Manhattan and then the Bronx for most of my life. I went to the Bronx High School of Science, #1 science school in all of New York City, public school system. That's like where someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson actually graduated from, fun fact. I was on the robotics team there, so I was helping lead their strategy for building robots that were actually solving real world problems through the FRC competition. After that, I went to McGill University in Montreal, Canada. They like to say they're the Harvard of Canada, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not true. It was a great time, learned a lot there. I studied behavioral economics there, so I was understanding kind of the intersection of psychology of people at their economic decision-making capabilities. And there I worked in a motivational lab, so I was studying the effect of pain and the effect of like all sorts of like isolation and stuff like that on people and their motivation. So I know a lot about how people are motivated to do things and goal-oriented behavior, which is I think kind of like my favorite thing to talk about. And then in my senior year, ChatGPT 3.5 dropped, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to study anymore, thank God, this is so pointless. And so literally ChatGPT 3.5 took like, I'm just gonna be completely honest, like 80% of my finals. So I didn't even have to do it. Thank you, ChatGPT. And kind of at this point, I realized like I had felt in my life that there was not like a particular area that I was really, really deeply like passionate and fascinated by. Again, I was really interested in motivation, but then when I went to work in these research labs, I mean, I think it's awesome what everyone does there, but I found it to be far too slow for me. And I liked to be able to kind of work at a cross-section of disciplines. And then ChatGPT 3.5 came out, and I literally just like became completely obsessed with it, how to break it out of the box, how to apply it, how to build agents that can utilize sort of like this thinking technology in order to accomplish tasks more effectively. And in my final semester there as well, I was also taking it was a graduate study course on machine learning for psychology. So we were literally applying like psychological like understandings in data using machine learning techniques, which was pretty interesting there as well. Okay, doesn't want to keep going. Love that. 1 second. Let's see if it wants to load. And soon after that, as Tim liked to say, I actually arrived at 757 Collab. There's a bit of a space in between there. I started a trading card game company, which I realized that I would need a lot more connection and capital to be able to take on the big guys in that space. And I met Eileen Brewer at the time, who was the 757 Accelerate, the Accelerate program executive director at the time. And I was talking to her about a startup I had started in college. And she was like, you got to come down here and learn how this actually works, because you think it's just about the idea. Well, no, actually, it's not just about the idea. It turns out you got to do a lot of work after you have the idea. And she's like, we'll teach you how to do that. And so I interned there. I was helping them write grants, find grants, just kind of do whatever the heck they asked me to. I went and worked at a sales position in one of the startup companies in the portfolio company. And then an executive assistant position opened up in Collab. And I was like, my ego doesn't like that I would take this position, but I took it anyway. And then I just kind of over-applied myself, and here I am still to this day. So, and yeah, as Tim said too, I'm applying AI all the time inside of 757 Collab. Kind of the main thing that I was working on kind of when I came in was, there was no digitized system whatsoever, right? So there was no one working off of any kind of centralized project management, CRM, whatever. And anyone who knows about AI initiatives, it's really hard to start an AI initiative without any kind of digital infrastructure in place. And so I went ahead and built all that digital infrastructure for them. And once that digital infrastructure was in place, kind of getting people to adopt it, the change management, that was the hard part. And then now people are using that platform in order to start getting work done as well. And so I've set the stage for myself to kind of build more advanced AI initiatives on top of that. Then we come to Logentiq, right? I met Chris. Chris and I had gone to a conversation. I had sort of wanted to start this company I called Build AI Teams. And I didn't really have the team to build that AI team. So I had met Chris and kind of told him about the idea. He thought it was genius. And soon after that, I was working with this young guy named Luke Scrivenich as well. And Luke and I had started working on this project called Hegemon because a quantitative trading firm had been interested in sort of my understanding of agentic AI. And so we were going to replicate a quant, which is like a PhD level mathematics student who goes and works for a financial firm, through agentic AI. We were going to sort of look to supplement them with a co-pilot. And then we all kind of came together, and that's how Logentiq was born. And that's logic, agent, IQ. I don't really know what that slide's trying to say. Oh, okay, so yeah, so I was doing this work at this time, right, kind of figuring out what it is that I wanted to do in life. And I remember, I'm not going to say who it was, but someone told me, ideas mean nothing. Literally nothing. And execution is everything. And I kind of hated them saying that because I'm a creative at heart. And I love the ideas that I have. And I love the idea of bringing those ideas into reality. I think anyone who's creative really feels like that's their purpose in life, is to be able to actually accomplish that. And at the same time, I was kind of listening to a lot of what Sam Altman had to say about his vision for the future. And he was talking a lot about a one-man team, right? This idea that we can have, one person with an idea, and they can bring that idea into reality through AI agents. And so I'd love to know too, like on that same vein, who here feels like they understand exactly how AI can help their business? Do they feel like they understand it exactly? Exactly. Like tell me one place, Tim, where you're like, I know AI can help right there, today.
I know it can help with everything.
That's a good point, right? And so it's like, where do you even start, right? Yeah. Next question would be, If you feel confident about like talking to potential investors or even maybe even potential lenders about understanding how to use AI to increase your ROI. Do you feel like you understand that? Right. And so kind of like you feel like you can?
Well, no, I would just add that if you can't,
Yeah.
then you're already behind the 8 ball.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that today, what we found, especially at 757 Collab, and I think, Tim, you're thinking the same thing, is that there's an expectation by like investors of any kind, banks, whomever, that you're going to be able to produce a higher amount of leverage or a higher amount of ROI per head inside of your company. And so if you're not leveraging AI inside of your company today, like Tim said, you're actually behind the 8 ball. And so one of the things that we are obsessed with at Logentiq is how can we make it really, really easy for you to use AI in your company where you're already doing work? That's kind of like the problem we're obsessed with. So now, like talking about like what is an AI agent, right? Like what actually is this? And this kind of has multiple definitions across the entire spectrum of AI or machine learning. But what we're going to talk about today is kind of a very specific definition that's emerged in this new sort of agentic AI era. And so there's a lot of different ways that people think about this. Like, for example, you might have heard of an MCP server before. Have people heard of that before? No. Okay, so an MCP server is like what provides understanding to ChatGPT. It extends ChatGPT's capabilities past what's available inside the box. And so kind of like how I like to think about it, though, is that like an MCP server says prompt, tool, task, but people don't really know what prompt really means. So I think it's about like understanding, right? Tool and task. So giving the AI an understanding of what you're doing, whether it's your business, what it's supposed to know, whatever it might be, that's kind of what an agent is all about. At a very high level, that's what an agent does. It understands something, it has tools, and it accomplishes a task, right? And so here are some examples. I just kind of threw this together just before this because I realized that people might want to think like specifically about examples. Also, am I speaking too fast? No? Okay. So Cursor, for example, is like an AI agent that's utilized for coding. And right now, like these tools, again, like Tim said, they're getting exponentially better over time. And every single time that, like, for example, a model, like a foundation model provider, like ChatGPT or someone who's creating an LLM, increases their capabilities, all these AI agents, which are built on top of them, get smarter. And so right now, like, for example, I could use Cursor and it'll run into the same error over and over and over again. And I just want to, get very upset. But then like someone like ChatGPT might release ChatGPT 5. And once they release ChatGPT 5, that problem actually goes away because now it's understanding a ton more context. It's ingested a ton more data. Another really great example of that is something called Opus Agent. So like there was in my observation, one of the lowest hanging fruits for AI was sort of like the social media space in general. And so Opus Agent actually took a crack at that, and now they're doing like full end-to-end like complete automation of social media. And so like you start to see that there's kind of this emerging ecosystem around, like, I think a good way to think about it is digital employees. There's an emerging number of digital employees, right? At the top, like for Cursor, if you were like a junior developer before, now you're kind of moving up to the management layer where you're managing a team of AI agents underneath you. And the same thing can be true about Opus Agent, right? Before you might have like, if you were a junior person, now you're actually managing a team of junior individuals instead of just like you doing the work. And so yeah, now like one of the things that I think, and so like, okay, sorry, that's what an AI agent is. How are we feeling about that? We understand what that is? Yeah, don't be shy. Yeah, well that is, yeah, it is. It's a robot. Yes, yes. And like that's the thing I think too, like to be very, very honest about is the fact that AI is absolutely there in the beginning to supplement people. But the end goal of AI is how do we produce as much leverage as possible? And that's going to look like taking away jobs, 100%. And the jobs are going to change. But the people who are entrepreneurs today already have the mindset and the skill set to take advantage of these things because it's going to provide you with all the capability that you'll ever need.
Question. So to that point, would you, as an employer, have to train other people to use these AI tools? Is that like the goal in a sense?
I don't think so. I think,
or is it just like you're just the only one that's using these AI tools?
Me personally?
I'm just speaking in like a broad sense.
I think it's about like how do you teach people to manage employees? In the same way that you teach people how to manage like a team of interns, you'd be teaching them how to manage digital staff. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then how does that training look like for people who have never used AI before? How do they translate to a more digitalized?
Yeah. So I mean, it depends. Again, like, let me ask you this question: do you use a project management tool at all? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So, like, for example, Notion is already implementing AI agents into their infrastructure, right? And so, if they're smart, they'll have it so that you can just communicate in natural language to this team of agents, and it'll just accomplish the goal for you. I think most of us, especially if we're entrepreneurs, we can say, I have this goal, right? And that's going to be the skill, is like understanding actually what is your objective, and then just doing it in the place where you're already doing work. And I think, again, like that's why like Logentiq's kind of positioning more as a back-end solution, right? And distributing into existing infrastructure. So there's already like stuff that's like Notion, or if you're a Monday.com user, or you're a Salesforce user, right? All of that stuff already exists. So it's like, we don't want to make you do the change management of changing to a new platform. We're not really interested in that. But we are interested in providing, like, and if you are, because we think we do have front-end stuff, then it's like, yeah, you can come use it. But it's like, you're already doing work somewhere, right? So let's not reinvent the wheel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm kind of hesitant to answer your question because I feel like the objective of agentic AI in a lot of ways is to make it so easy to use. It's like all you need to do is be able to communicate about what you want, and then it does it for you.
Only thing with AI, and I use it sometimes with my writing, sometimes it doesn't say what you're trying to say, you're getting across. And when you talk to the people on the computer, the AI, they don't understand you. It makes me frustrated when you're trying to get through to a company and you're saying one thing and the thing is thinking another thing.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about that? Like, can you give me an example?
You won't tell them.
I was going to say, your point is kind of a double-edged sword, because really all AI, all the stuff is really as good as the instructions that are put into it and the sources that it also connects to. So the frustration that you're feeling is because these companies don't really have the time to go through every use case, every scenario, so therefore they're trying to give whatever's their top or their most common things. So it gets really, really difficult if you're trying to get help on things that are more, hyper, individual use cases. But broader sense, it does the job and then some. So it sounds like, again, the issue is that the frustration comes from the actual thing that you're trying to get resolved.
But suppose if that keep happening to me and it's happening to a whole lot of people, how would the person knows that people are having a difficult time with it?
Yes.
And it's frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you so much. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel the exact same way. Like, I talk to AI and it's not doing exactly what I describe it as doing. And I'm like, well, then what the hell am I even doing here, man? And so I guess like my curiosity question to you would be, firstly, what do you think would be the best way for AI companies to solve that?
Everybody got their hand, go ahead.
So what I've learned is that it comes down to the prompting itself. So you have to kind of template it in a way to get what you want. So you want to like give the AI a role of like what it's supposed to be. So say like, I want you to be a business manager, or I want you to be like a therapist. And then you have to clarify exactly what you wanted to do in terms of something. So say like, if you do want to be a business manager, you could say like, I wanted to organize some data in terms of my finances or whatever. And then you just have to keep breaking it down as specifically as possible. So like, I feel like the longer your prompts are and the more specific they are, you'll get down to exactly what you want. Like that's what I've learned in my experience with dealing with AI. Is like you have to be very detailed, and then you also have to what's the word? Iterate it. So you have to have a conversation. That's what I've learned.
So you say you're using it for writing. Some things that I've used that works really well for me is that you can create like a repository, so to speak, for things that you've written or things that you like in different styles, and you add that as your source information, as reference to using your AI to have that with a more human response. And then also, again, depending on the audience that you're doing, you really got to be real specific and tell it what not to do, not just what to do, but really what not to do. And that's how you'll yield better results. It's not designed to really technically 100% replace a person, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to like low-level tasks or even kind of relatively complex items, it makes a big, huge difference. Like it makes a world of difference, and you will literally see the results and the quality improve drastically.
Yeah, so I think the terminology about prompting is almost like a oxymoron in a sense, at least to me it is, because as AI is advancing, prompting will become more like a natural iterative process versus right now it's just, okay, here's one input, you have to put everything that you can ever think of on how to guide the AI to give the answer to you. But my assumption is as the whole thing progress, now the AI will take steps to break it down from what your initial thought, and then, okay, maybe I need to iterate it a little bit to kind of guide it to the answer you want. And it will become like a self-iterative process on the interaction itself versus right now just an input-output kind of level.
Absolutely.
Right, so yeah, so I don't know if the industry will go to that route or they will be prompting to more like, okay, well, here's the rule. If you follow the rule, that will be the best for you. Just go learn the rule. Or they will try to do more on the iterative side.
I think they're probably going to go that way, is my guess. Like even, for example, the difference between ChatGPT 4.5 and ChatGPT 5. Now ChatGPT 5 will actually ask you follow-up questions if your prompt is unclear, to make sure that it's understanding kind of exactly what you want. And then the other thing is, so there's two, I think for you specifically, kind of two things that would be of interest to you are projects inside of ChatGPT, and then what's called the GPTs. And these kind of used to be synonymous, but they changed projects recently, which I didn't like. But inside of projects, for example, you can upload like examples of your writing style. And so it'll be more, it's called like, it'll resemble more your language of use. And you can say, hey, use these examples from the files that I uploaded and make it sound like that. And then the other thing that you can do inside of like a GPT is like maybe like you have a prompt that you really like, right? You can upload that prompt into the GPT and you'll get the same behavior, generally speaking, every time inside of that GPT. And so you can upload files in there as well. And then also there's something called the GPT store. And inside of there, you might be able to find as well people who have kind of done that work to be able to like write what's a great writing prompt as well. And you can find like more, the word in the industry is called fine-tuned, or more specific examples of something that could be of use to you. Yeah.
One thing that's super interesting is that, so these models are trained to be right. So you'll get the thumb up or thumb down generally, and that's just telling the LLM, yes, you're right, no, you're not. It wants to be right. So when you're in your prompts, you actually can threaten it, and it will perform better because it wants to be correct. So like if you're like, I need you to do your best work,
My mom's gonna die, so.
or else, I'm not going to use it. I mean, it will try harder. It's just really, really trippy to think, but that's just.
It's true, yeah.
And just one last thing too, like in terms of a framework for you to use, again, kind of like you were saying, there's not a perfect framework, and these systems change all the time. But if you could define, like what I'll do is I'll write like your role is, describe it. Task is, describe it. Example of what I'd like is, describe it. And then output format, like how do I want it written, is. And there's a tool on the GPT store you can use called Prompt Maker Owl, and you can utilize that as well to help you write better prompts.
Who developed Prompt Maker Owl?
This guy named Charlie O'Brien, he's kind of cool. But yeah, so, and then we've got like something as well, which is a standalone app. If you're interested, we can talk about as well. He's a prompt making dragon, which I think is way cooler. Anyway, but yeah.
He kind of asked the question.
Sweet.
One thing I wanted to challenge you all with is like on your when you open up a new web browser, instead of it going to Google or whatever, change it to go to ChatGPT or to whatever, and use that first.
Yep.
And then it just really, whatever comes to mind, use that. Start putting prompts in, because it is all about how well you put your prompts in, but like, you'll be amazed when you use that first.
Yeah, I mean, even like, for example, last night, I literally was having like a ethical conundrum in my life, and I went to ChatGPT and I was like, this is exactly the problem that I'm facing. And it knows me so well, because I've been using it now since like, probably 2.5, 3 years or something like that, crazy. And it literally knows like exactly how I like to be, responded to in moments when I'm kind of emotionally struggling, right? And so it wrote like a poem, because I told it one time that I really like writing poetry. And so it literally wrote a poem to help me express myself and like get through what I was feeling. And so like that's the level to which you kind of want to strive towards, doing exactly what Tim said, right? Where it's like anytime you go to Google, just go to ChatGPT and it'll help you answer everything.
I have a business question. We have ChatGPT for business.
Yep.
Is the information that we enter into that confidential, or can others see it?
Yep.
So for ChatGPT, if you're using the business or the team plan, what they say is that they don't train on your data. So what that means is that anything that you enter into that stays within that environment. It's not being used to retrain their models afterwards, which means technically, although who knows how true this actually will be in practice, that information is secure. It's not being shared.
What in your day-to-day, how does AI help you in your day-to-day? So like, I saw you mention projects earlier. Like I use projects on a daily. So like we use them for our SOPs. Like we have all the files built out. So I'll, tell it I need a new SOP and it'll spit out this in checklist form. We upload like user inquiries. So I'll just take a screenshot, put that in, and it'll spit out a response for me to send to them. So like, what other ways do you use it on a day-to-day to like help you in your
My role?
just your role?
All of the code that I write is written by AI. Depending on, I'm probably gonna have to go back in afterwards and review everything, but like from the perspective of just ship fast, right, break things, AI writes all my code. I was doing a comparison last week between like bugs that I was resolving if I was like a senior engineer, the amount of bugs that would be resolved versus like me with AI solving bugs and like fixing problems or shipping product. And it was like I was 40 times more efficient, like 400 times, like 400. If I was doing one task, it's like 40 now, right? So the velocity has increased rapidly. So that's one thing I use it for. Project management, before, right? Like I would have to think about every single deliverable all the way through the value chain that I'd be creating inside of a project. AI does that automatically for me, right? I just give it the goal, where I want to do, how do I want to do it. It breaks the entire thing out. Delegates the work to people in my organization or to AI, right? Research, right? So if I'm like trying to understand, for example, like a SWOT analysis for an industry, I can just go steal the homework of every consultant in the entire industry and compile that into one report. I type in the prompt in 2 minutes and then it runs it in the background and then I'm done, right? So I think that the way to think about it is that anything that requires knowledge work is at this point something that I'm turning to AI for most of the time. I still think you need a human in the loop 100% because we're not at the point where it's like specialized, right, to a specific industry really, really well. We're still training these systems by using them a lot of the time. But does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah.
Like I try to think of like in my project management tool, and we developed our own, in my project management tool, I try to think of what AI agent can I connect this to do my work for me. That's always the perspective that I'm taking.
In this course, or I guess in your workshop today, are you going to harp on the best ways to connect other third-party things to work together? So, for instance, in my particular use case, and I'm hoping that I'm trying to do that to be able to solve my 3 areas. One is proper outreach to a lot of like my end users, and then a proper cadence so that I can make sure that the value that I'm trying to deliver is being delivered, or get feedback on what's missing. Then the other use case is more about business outreach, where prospecting, like proper prospecting, which is something that everybody could, you know, if you're running a business needs, is to find out who really is a warm lead or who is actually primed to best take advantage of your product or service. And then the third is just a hybrid. And this particular one is for me is for event scraping or essentially web scraping information and collecting open source data in a consistent, easy way. So just in general, like how would you approach that with not just obviously just using pure ChatGPT, but whatever like third-party tools would you connect that you think would help towards that?
Yeah, so really great question. A lot of the time that I spent inside of Colab was doing exactly what you're talking about, is like essentially either inventing tools and connecting them to our systems or finding existing tools and connecting them to our system. And the mission of Logentiq through our product called Clairvoya is specifically to do what you're describing, where we don't want you to have to ever have that question again. It's like, how about we have out of the box, like all of the work that you would want to do automatically inside of one business system is connected. So like that's our objective. So I'd love to connect with you afterwards and think about how we can think those three things together into one system. Now, to be a good steward as well, if you want to be able to do that work yourself, right, and you want to do that, the best tool that I found out there is called Airtable. Like that is the best tool that you will have to do. You will spend probably 100 hours trying to do these three things. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that's like, again, right? Like that's where I think like the AI engineering side of things, right? That's what the prompt engineering is today, right? Like being able to kind of figure out how to use these tools and connect them. That's the competitive advantage for a lot of companies today is that. And so we want to decentralize that competitive advantage for everyone. And so exactly what you're describing, right? Like one of the things that we all have in common with AI is that we all do tasks, right? We're all completing objectives. That's all what we do. And so I think a lot about like, yeah, there we go, right? I'm human, I do tasks. They're AI, they do tasks, right? But like how can we fit, like one of the problems that's in the industry too is like, what's the best way for AI and humans to collaborate together? Where is the space for which you can actually accomplish those things in one area? And so if you think about it, right, I kind of gave you the answer. I do tasks, they do tasks, right? So the answer is like, who has a task management system? Who here in your business are you using a project management system? Are you using a CRM that can track tasks? Raise a hand, who's doing that? Amazing, right? And so that's really, in my opinion, like AI is fundamentally an operational idea. It's about providing more operational capacity to you, and operators live in a task management system or something similar to that. And I think it's interesting too because it's going to be really easy. Again, people in AI are really concerned with how do we measure ROI? How do we understand how much we're saving? Well, the reason why they're not able to actually do that is because they're not creating benchmarks. They don't have an understanding of where they are spending their time. But if you have a really good understanding of, for example, like in your task management, you happen to spend a lot of time doing tasks that a social media manager would do. Well, if you're trying to save time and your time is money, then you know where to start. Does that make sense?
So on the human component side of that, large organizations like mine, I mean, the reskilling and upskilling process is the most difficult. So marrying the human element to the AI element is where I see the most struggle in small organizations or large organizations. So, from a training perspective or shifting the landscape of how you're thinking about approaching these tasks, I think that's where the biggest opportunity is for going into an organization is how do you train the staff to effectively and ethically use these tools, and that's the other component too is if we're all looking at the same source or if you're building out your source, where is the break point for that in terms of how do you use it effectively in your day-to-day? I think that's what I struggle with sometimes is I have all these different tools. How do I effectively use them?
Yeah. When you log in for your day, like for your day-to-day, right? What's the first thing you do?
Check my calendar.
Okay. And what do you do once you go to your calendar? Like why are you going to your calendar?
To see what I've scheduled or what meetings I have, and then using the tool to say, okay, here's a summary of that business, or here's a summary of that industry. So
Yeah.
I think, again, it's training me and my peers on how to use those tools effectively is the struggle. And I think it's, going from a shift of doing everything via paper to now, I'm using the tool on my day-to-day. So again, I think the struggle is just how do we change the mindset to use those tools first as opposed to the way I've always done.
Yeah. And what do you think the biggest struggle for people would be in that?
I think, for me, content overload. I mean, if I have 10 different tools that are all designed to do the same thing and make my job easier, but I'm filtering through all 10 of them to make my life easier, then I'm kind of stuck in the same, so it's almost like you need an umbrella task to break down all the, subtasks.
Yeah. That's what Clairvoya does, by the way. That is the mission of Clairvoya, is you put in your goal, you put in your project, you put in whatever, and it can work on your calendar, and then it's going to break those things down for you into, okay, you can use this tool, and you can just click, use the tool, click, 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 right?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think that would be helpful though?
Yeah, I mean, especially for like like he's describing, kind of more sales oriented. I mean, you have events, and time is money when it comes to which event do I want to go to, and which event is going to have the best outreach or best result. So again, trying to figure out, taking all that data and bubbling it down to an easy summary that I can just click on and say, okay, here's 3 events that are happening in the area, that may be most beneficial if you're doing prospecting in this group of persons.
That group. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Sweet. Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
He just brought up a really good point, because my family owns a workforce development company and back in Jersey, and we help the underserved communities of people who come from the inner city communities and also people in rural. And the individuals that come into the office, they literally don't know how to use like Excel or PowerPoint or Microsoft Word.
Yes.
So that's a demographic as well. That
Yes.
there's a barrier. In terms of like how to train, and that's why I was asking the question before, because I'm always like thinking about that type of demographic, like how do you train these individuals, because it is a very useful and helpful tool that could actually be very beneficial for them,
Right.
but it's just like that language barrier.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, one of the things that we're obsessed with is like, my background is in coding, so I have tons and tons of time spent in an environment that people quote describe as a matrix, right? And so when I opened ChatGPT for the first time, I just saw the matrix, but now I can talk in English, right? And so what a lot of time we spend on is on exactly the question of how do we make it so intuitive for someone to use that it feels like picking up a baby rattle and just shaking it. And we think like we need to talk to more people is the answer, and we don't know. So if you have like thoughts, we'd love to connect with you and learn more about how you can like think about that problem. But it is really about, communication is the new skill, right? You don't need to know how to do anything other than speak English. That's it. Yeah. And like especially for our systems are designed to ask you questions to unblock ambiguity, because we don't want to have the output which isn't good, I don't know is the answer, but I'd love to learn more.
And I think one of the other challenges too is the hesitancy to put all of your data into an open source platform. So, with the research tools that I'm using with the AI component, it's only as good as the data that's put into it, like you're saying, so like the contact information, and if they're on do not call registry, all of that, it makes it very challenging to get good data back to me. So I'm still having to do a lot of that human component, going to the business, dropping off, making sure those folks are still there, because some businesses will intentionally put out incorrect data to throw off, people that are cold prospecting and things like that. So that's the other big challenge from a day-to-day like sales perspective is, deliberate misinformation in the system.
Yeah, well, I'd love to connect with you and learn more about how that works, and kind of, because again, like I know AI, you know what your problems are, right? And the only way I could really get into understanding truly like what's at the root of that is to like really understand, how do you do your work? How have you solved this problem before? Are there solutions out there which solve exactly the thing that you're really feeling underneath all of that, right? And I mean, one of the things that we think a lot about is, like, for example, providing an on-prem solution for something, so that, like, I mean, it's beautiful now because a lot of, like, the government essentially forced AI companies, like AI labs, to produce an open source version that's downloadable. And so we package that into what we do as well, because I think a lot of people are going to be concerned with the privacy around their data. Yeah, so the thing though, like, I mean, and I totally understand that, like, that makes perfect sense. And the thing that's interesting to me is that it's like, these systems only get better if we share information, you know? And so it's like, there's a catch-22, right? Because business doesn't want to share information, but these systems need to get better, like, if we want everyone to benefit. So I think a lot about that, but yeah, there's a lot of good existing ways to solve that. So I'd love to chat more as well.
It may be kind of stupid, and I don't know if I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Please.
But your job is, do you help people to tweak it a little bit for their company in a sort of way? Or you I don't want to say you're like a salesperson or like a person that can navigate what the problems are and kind of fix it to be a solution for your company?
Yeah, so my job is product. So I develop systems that make it easier for you to use AI, right? And what we're doing is providing out of the box, right? Like, we write lots of prompts. And again, like I said, I wrote the prompt tool to make prompts easier and better, right? And so we write into these systems, like, the best principles of prompting. So, like, for example, if you want to report a SWOT analysis on your industry, click, there you go, best, like, it's gonna be an amazing report, right, based on your industry. And then you can talk to it with the AI and all that. So think about it from the perspective of, like, hey, I wanna accomplish this goal, right, this task. I wanna delegate work to this individual. How can you help me use AI to do that? And that's kind of where we could step in and say, okay, great, like, we know how to help with that. And the other thing too is, like, for us, we don't wanna be the ones developing all the agents. So we're always looking for more workforce partners to be able to help us, like, share the wealth, right? In, like, this kind of AI gold rush around, you know, like, a specific capability that people might have. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I would say that the takeaway, one of the takeaways, and I don't, maybe you cover this, but, like, take an inventory of your time. How do you spend your time each day? And then starting with that biggest chunk, like for me, email is where I spend a lot of my time. So I use a platform called Superhuman. So I know that paying $20 a month to Superhuman, I save hours and hours and hours of my day. So, you know, it's, even if I was to save 1 hour, I know that it's already paid for itself. But, like, what it does for me is, before I even open up, as soon as I open up an email, it bullets everything. This is what the email says. Even if someone forwards you a whole chain, and rather than have to scroll through the whole thing, it just bulletizes everything. But now it, like, uses AI and it generates my response. I read it, I approve it, and then it just goes out. And so I'm able to go through, like, hundreds of emails, like, a day. So I know that saves me hours of my time. But, you know, with that, that's just me in email. So the inventory of your time and find out where it is that you spend most of your time, and then find the tool there. But you got to start by having the first window you open up being some sort of LLM, so that you can train your brain to change those behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, you know, if you're thinking about, one of the things that our tool does is it helps you understand exactly what you're doing, who you're delegating that work to be able to kind of answer that question of how can I get an ROI on my time. And this tool is completely free as well. So, and that is Clairvoya, right? And so the idea is that Clairvoya goes through systems, and you can come talk to 757 Collab as well to kind of get access to the system. But to your question, like, this is not, and maybe this is already too technical, so I'd love that feedback. But, like, the design is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be approachable. It's supposed to make it so that it's really easy for you to use, and it's breaking down your tasks all the way through to your smallest item, so that you're understanding how to reverse engineer your goals. But yeah, we'd love to kind of understand, like, how AI can help solve your problem. You can come talk to 757 Collab as well to kind of get hands-on experience with that system. So if you're an entrepreneur or if you're an ESO, please reach out. And this code on the left is for Logentiq. That's the company that we work for to build these systems. And then if you want to use the system or you just want to talk, entrepreneurship support, you can go on the right side over there, and that's 757 Collab. Any last questions?
It's great that you all are here because you've got to get your hands dirty and you just got to dig into it and just get messy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the truth is like no one really, there's not a lot of people in the world right now who actually know how to use these systems very well. And so if you're just jumping in and using it, you're probably already in like the top. I mean, and probably now you're probably in like the 50% mark, but I think too, like if you're thinking about how do I level up my game if I'm already a user, projects and GPTs, like that's going to be like your bread and butter. And then if you're like, okay, now I'm kind of past that, well, I'd say you can come to Clairvoyant. But also I would say, just start, like if you're a developer of any kind, just start building something that integrates AI into that. I like to call it like kind of breaking the box or breaking AI out of the box to be able to build stuff as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just as you have B2C, business to consumer,
Bless you.
business to business. Soon it's going to be going business to agent, and then it's going to go agent to agent.
Yep.
So it's just like you've got to, all this stuff is just going to happen without us.
Like your
interacting
business
with
needs to
any-
be an agent.
Your business needs to be AI so that other AIs can talk to your AI and understand how to do business with it. Like that is going to be very, very fundamental.
We're building a chatbot currently for
Yeah.
our business, so I'm going to reach out to you afterward.
Yeah. We'd love
Pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah. This guy helping out?
Not yet.
Not yet,
Yeah,
I'll be on
not with the chatbot,
Sweet.
with other things. but
Sweet.
yeah.
Where y'all located? I know you all around. I see this right here, but physically, office, telephone number, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, you can talk to Chris Davidson right here. He's the CEO, and he'd be happy to help you understand like all of our offerings and everything like that. And then if you want to use our system, like we partner with entrepreneurial support organizations like Reactor, like Collab, to be able to bring this to your entrepreneurs free of charge. Like that's what we think about a lot is like how do we allow entrepreneurs to utilize these systems to bring their ideas to life. But yeah, so we're in Norfolk because I work at Collab right now full time as well, and then I live in Virginia Beach.
Okay, so you're in Norfolk.
Yes.
The company is right.
Yes.
Headquarters.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, well, our headquarters is on the peninsula.
Our mailing address is in York County, but I have an office in the chamber, the Peninsula Chamber and City Center in Newport News. So if anyone wants to see us, they can come with a pre-scheduled appointment because I'm not always there. To the chamber on the peninsula or to Collab in Norfolk.
Yep. 100%.
Yep.
Okay, great. That's good to know because AI is just out there.
Yeah.
I want to see where the person is at. The
The other thing you can do too is like if you want advice on AI, how it can help you help your business, follow Logentiq on LinkedIn, which is that left code right there. And then I also am writing on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn every single day to make you 1% better at using AI.
So you just got your name, first name, Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie O'Brien AI. I think if you look that up on any of those platforms, you'll find me. And it's AI me talking to you about AI. So
It's really good. Charlie's, if I can say, developed quite a market voice in terms of AI. He's followed by, in fact, aren't you followed by actual OpenAI now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you're on the radar.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely follow Logentiq, but follow Charlie too.
You get a lot of hits then, huh?
yeah, I mean on TikTok, one of like the posts that we made, the first like real viral post I ever got, we did 350,000 views, like 12,000 comments. Yeah.
Getting money.
Not yet, man. Like they ain't paying me. Shit, man.
That's
But-
good. Thank
And I
you.
guess another thing to add, right now everything is pretty wide. You're going to see a lot of things become more vertical,
Yep.
specialized in certain things. Like there's tax GTP that just focuses on accounting and tax. So you're going to see things become much more verticalized.
Yep.
And again, so like, I just can't stress enough, your first step is just to always have that first window and then find, before you even ask a question to anybody, ask whatever platform you're on. And then it will tell you, like, I have to stop myself all the time before I'm like, hey James, how do I do this?
Right.
So I'll just stop and like Well, sometimes I would go to like for WordPress.
Yeah.
I would just describe the problem into WordPress and say, hey, what do I need to do? And it gives you step-by-step directions, and then that just saved you probably $100 from talking to your developer just to change an image on your header or something. I mean, it's just like, it's...
And the future is going to be, too, that these platforms are going to become agents that you can just talk to and fix whatever problem it is that you want. Like, that's going to be next. Like, a lot of platforms are starting to do that as well. Like Airtable. It's crazy.
And while it's getting better and better, you're starting off on second base. Do not trust it blindly. I mean,
Yes.
there's going to be some hallucinations, but I'd rather start on second base than on a blank piece of paper.
Apparently they figured that out the other day, why hallucinations happen too. It's pretty crazy. Like that might be gone soon.
Yeah, that's another double-edged sword, right? I mean, as the number of hallucinations go down, you can't get lazy and just assume that it's going to be right, because you will get burned on occasion.
All right.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. Take some time. If you have any questions, talk to Charlie.